Hello, welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. Our program for you today is on light pollution. Now, most folks know what air pollution and water pollution is, but they don't really think about light as a pollution. Well, it is. With me in the studio today is Frank Ancona, a member of the Ford Amateur Astronomy Club and a member of the International Dark Sky Association. Frank, welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yes. Tonight we're going to discuss preserving the night sky.
Great. Something that's important to amateur astronomers and to people in general, correct?
Correct.
Now, can you tell our viewers what exactly is light pollution?
Light pollution is light going where it is not meant to be going and light being used when it is not needed.
Okay. What are some examples of that?
Some examples are like the United States lit up at night. You can just see the wasted energy that we are producing that is doing absolutely nothing.
So it's just light shining up into the sky
Yes.
that's basically lighting up the bellies of birds and airplanes.
Yes, it is, and competing with the stars.
Now this causes things like glare.
It causes glare, and glare can be dangerous when you're driving your car. As you know, when it's raining outside, you can see the glare on the road. It actually is very blinding. If the lights are very bright, they shine in your eye, and they prevent you from seeing the vehicles that are in front of you due to the fact that you got vehicles coming to you from the opposite direction. So glare can be very blinding and dangerous. And furthermore, it can have light trespass.
Light trespass, what's that, Frank?
Light trespass is light shining on someone else's property. For example, you have a light shining on the road, like most cities do, and that light is not only illuminating the road, but is illuminating the buildings and the surrounding areas, and part of that is also going up into the night sky as well, causing light pollution.
I see. So it would shine into a person's bedroom at night?
Yes, it would. Let's talk about what creates light pollution.
Yes.
Light pollution is created by light that is being emitted, that is being refracted by water vapor and the dust that we kick up during the day, and that light is being refracted, and it competes with starlight, and since it's so much brighter, it drowns out the night sky.
I see.
So any light shining upward, and for an example, like going to the airport, you see a lot of signs along the road. All that light shining upward causes light pollution, and most of it is wasted, like 72 to 75%. And this is an example of the light pollution. We have 4 lights in this frame here, with 250 watt bulbs each, and probably 1,600 watts there, and probably 1,000 watts of that is just going up into the night sky, doing absolutely nothing. And we're paying for it.
Oh my goodness. The wasted natural resources such as oil, gas, and coal, the money that we spend to buy those resources to burn needlessly.
Correct. And as customers and as taxpayers, we're paying for that. And one of the things too that makes it bad too is our cities are putting in what is called this new globe type of lighting, which is very, very inefficient lighting and very expensive to operate. And as you can tell, by walking down the streets, you can see that the light is shining everywhere, but the sidewalk it's supposed to be illuminating, or the streets that they're supposed to be illuminating. And once again, as taxpayers, we're paying for that wasted energy. And we need to be more responsible in the way we use our lighting.
I see. So it would be an example of these acorn-shaped lights, like were popular back 100 years ago with candlelight. They're now using with electricity, and it sounds like we're wasting an inordinate amount of energy to throw light in every direction.
That is true. An example of that lighting we're using, that acorn type of lighting, is in the city of Plymouth, the city of Canton, even in some of the older cities such as Redford. We're going to this new type of acorn lighting, And Edison is selling it to people, this type of light, and it is very, very ineffective as far as illuminating what you want to be illuminated, and it offers a problem with safety as well.
Again, the glare into the person's eyes, blinding them to something that would be in front of them that they can't see.
Correct.
I see. So with all of these bad fixture designs and sending light up where we don't need it, what are some of the problems associated with doing all of this?
Well, like I said, we get over illumination, and one of the bad lights that really causes a lot of people put in is called the dusk to dawn lights. And they seem to illuminate everything but what they're supposed to, and they're large bulbs. And one of these lights left on for a year is like driving a car for 5,000 miles. And as you can see, they're a very wasteful fixture, and a lot of people think that they should be banned. So
I see.
Examples of these type of lighting, if you go to California, you can see the over illumination.
I see. In addition to the waste of our natural resources, burning the coal, the natural gas, these contribute to pollution, such as air pollution.
Correct. And there's many examples of light pollution that's wasting our energy. And you got to remember, 1 pound of coal 6 pounds of coal, excuse me, will illuminate a 100-watt light bulb for probably 1 minute. That's how much energy that we are consuming. If you took all the wasted energy, you can see how much we're consuming. And examples of that are like our parking lots. A lot of cities have ordinances that our parking lots should be illuminated all night for safety reasons. And there are many examples of parking lots for like Walmart, Kmart, where their stores are shut down and the whole parking lot's illuminated, and that's doing absolutely nothing. Sometimes there's one car in the parking lot, sometimes there's no cars in the parking lot, and there we're wasting energy, and a lot of that is inefficient lights, and that light is going into the atmosphere.
Okay. Again, burning all this coal that you were just talking about releases greenhouse gas emissions, which contributes to things like acid rain, which
Correct.
is quite harmful to plants and wildlife.
Correct. Our country is the largest consumer, besides China, of coal-fired utility plants. And these plants here, we're building more of them, and we've talked about going to clean coal, but that's years away. In the process, we are still burning tons of coal, and that coal is being wasted, illuminating the night sky. And in the process of that coal creates sulfur and other chemicals in our atmosphere, and when it rains, that rain comes down and poisons our lakes and our streams. That poison creates a very acidic atmosphere for our fish, which is the lakes, and it kills the fish. And there's been very large amounts of lime that we are now using by the Department of Parks and Recreations. They're putting that into the lakes to neutralize the acid in our lakes from killing the fish.
It also has a detrimental effect on vegetation as well, I'm sure.
Correct, it does. It causes algae to grow more prevalently.
Also, these bright lights I've seen in places like National Geographic, where in certain areas along the Caribbean or along the Pacific coasts, sea turtles that rely on the full moon as part of their reproductive process, planting the eggs in the sand, and instead of heading towards the ocean, towards the full moon, they're heading towards the brightly lit hotels and the highways.
That is correct, and their bearings are getting messed up in this process. And what happens is a lot of the turtles actually die trying to reach the waters due to the fact that they are going the wrong way, and that leaves them open for many predators.
I see. This also has problems with human health as well, correct?
That is correct. A lot of the so-called acorn lights that the cities have been putting up are shining very bright. That glare is transmitted, or over-illumination is transmitted through our windows and really affects our sleep. And in the process of affecting our sleep, when we don't get enough sleep, it causes a lot of problems with our health, such as fatigue, anxiety, irritability, and you can see that at work when people falling asleep or closing their eyes on the job. You can see that in the stress that people have just walking down the halls at your offices and where you work. And furthermore, you can see a lot of that irritability in the way people drive cars. Part of that is due to lack of sleep. They want to hurry up and get home. They're tired from a hard day's work, and they're very irritable on the road.
Contributes to the problem of road rage that we read
Correct.
about in the papers. And all of this extra light also degrades the night sky. I mean, the heritage of the night sky that our grandparents and great-grandparents knew is really lost to us today, it seems.
Yes, it is. The night sky in the late 1800s, in comparison to what we see today, our kids and ourselves, we lose a lot. A lot of people love to go camping out, and they enjoy sitting underneath the night sky and the campfires. And you can see, if you go out to the country and into the city, you can see a tremendous difference in the night sky and the way we see the stars today.
Well, that sounds like we've got some serious problems that need to be addressed. This is a fascinating subject that we're going to continue. Right now, though, we're going to take a brief pause for a public service announcement. If you do have any questions for us, you can send them to our email address that you can see at the bottom of your screen. And right after this public service announcement, we'll come back with the conclusion of this very interesting talk on light pollution. Welcome back to our show. We've been talking about light pollution with Frank Ancona, a member of the Ford Amateur Astronomy Club and a member of the International Dark Sky Association. Now, Frank, we've been talking about some of the causes and problems of light pollution. Tell our viewers that there's a solution that we can hopefully come to.
There is definitely a solution. The solution is buying full cutoff lighting, and this type of lighting is good for parking lots, your homes. It may cost you a little bit more, but in the long run it saves you money on your electric bill. And to be aware, the full cutoff lighting, what it does is it doesn't allow light above 90 degrees parallel with the light. So it keeps the light, most of it, down. In the process of shining the light where you want it, what happens is you use smaller bulbs, which are consuming less electricity, and you're saving money. So that's how that full cutoff lighting actually works.
We're cutting down the waste of light.
You're cutting down the waste. You're not using as big of bulbs, and you're directing the light to exactly where you want it, not in the trees, in the sky, and in your neighbor's property.
Mm-hmm. What can we do to get the word out to people about this?
Well, it's good to get involved in your government, and the reason for that is they're always trying to decide on new type of lighting for the communities and subdivisions and on your streets. And it's better to get involved and let your government know where you stand on lighting, and on top of that, on saving money and taxpayers' money. And it's good to recognize good and poor lighting. Most people in new construction homes, they use lighting like jelly jar lighting, which is bad. They put floodlights outside, which are bad lights too. There are other lights that can do the same thing with less wattage, and they're more efficient, and they're getting the light where you want it to be.
So people, if they get involved with their government, they can help influence decisions on lighting ordinances?
That is correct. That is correct. We need to get more involved in our government so our government knows about light pollution. But a lot of government people think that more lighting adds security. Well, you got to remember, the guy that's going to rob you, that you're trying to run away from, can see where you're going, just like you. So you have to realize, more lighting, is it safe or is it unsafe? And I think in most cases that a lot of lighting is really unsafe due to driving and on the streets of your homes and your neighborhoods.
So in other words, if a home is illuminated excessively, the robber that's trying to break into your window will be hidden in the glare of all those lights that people think are going to keep him away in the first place.
Well, actually, a home that has a lot of light on the outside can tell whether or not there is an occupant in the home. And if there isn't anybody in the home, that's the perfect house to break into. I don't need a flashlight to get into your home. I can go through the back door, come into your home, shut the drapes, and just keep hauling the stuff out. That way he can see what he's doing. He doesn't need to turn on a lot of lights. So a lot of lighting can be ineffective as far as security for your home as well. Now, if a guy is going to rob your home and needs a flashlight, I'm sure if somebody saw people running around your house with a flashlight in hand trying to go through the windows, they would call the police because they would say something's wrong here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our solutions include educating the public to be aware of what good lighting is, to involve their government to get the ordinances that will mandate the better type of fixtures that will help eliminate problems like sky glow. And these will also help in reduction in use of electricity, correct?
Correct. And safety.
And safety as well. So if we do all of this, the results, what's the end result for the positive of doing all of this?
Well, we're preserving our night sky. We're reducing our cost, taxes that we're getting charged for the lighting in your community. And it brings the wonder back for your children to look at the night sky and say, geez, look at that. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. And of course, if we reduce the amount of light, going back to one of the topics we touched on earlier of light trespass into your neighbor's bedroom,
correct,
we'll have improved health for people as well.
That's correct.
And a cleaner environment.
And cleaner environment.
Less fossil fuels being burned, less emissions up into the air. It sounds like a win-win situation.
It truly is. And for the fishermen, bigger fish.
There you go. Frank, where can people find out more about this?
You can Google International Dark Skies, and there's a lot of stuff on their website. There is also the Utah Dark Skies, which has a lot of good information on their websites. And there's the U of M Lowbrows, which has a lot of good information on
That's an astronomy club in Ann Arbor,
That's
correct?
an astronomy club in Ann Arbor. And we also can say that the International Astronomical Union has information that can direct you to many other sites that have a lot of information as to what light pollution is, good fixtures to buy, how to get involved in your government, and the type of ordinances that will stop light pollution and give us a better environment for ourselves and our children to live in the future.
Sounds like a win-win situation, Frank. We'll have some of these resources that we were just talking about listed here at the end of the show. If you want to find out information, you can go to our website that you can see displayed at the bottom of your screen. And right after this short break for an upcoming list of events, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our program. Recently, we were able to attend a talk by Brother Guy Consolmagno. He's the gentleman in charge of the Vatican's meteorite collection in Rome, and also he's a native Detroiter. And after his presentation at the Detroit Science Center, Astronomy for Everyone was able to catch up with Brother Guy and have a quick interview to discuss some interesting topics with him. Here's our interview. Welcome to Astronomy for Everyone. I'm your host, Don Glaser. We're here tonight in the Detroit Science Center's Dassault Systèmes Planetarium. With me is my special guest, Brother Guy Consolmagno. Brother Guy is an author, astronomer, and curator of the meteorite collection at the Vatican Observatory. He divides his time between the Vatican telescopes in Arizona and Castle Gandolfo outside Rome, where the meteorite collection is housed. Brother Guy, welcome to our program.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, you're originally from the Detroit area. What was the path that led you to your present career?
Well, I decided when I was a freshman in college, I had to choose between being a Jesuit or being a scientist, and I chose to be a scientist. I gave up the idea of being a Jesuit. So I went to MIT, studied planetary science, got a doctorate, worked 5 years as a postdoctoral fellow, and then I felt I wanted to be a little more adventurous. I did some Peace Corps work. I taught in a small college. And at that point, I was, almost 40 years old. And I realized, much as I loved all of that, something was missing. And that's when the idea came back in my head that I'd had back when I was a freshman, to enter religious life, to be a Jesuit. At the time, my idea was I'd become a Jesuit brother. I'd teach at one of the Jesuit schools. I'd have that sense of teaching, which I really love, teaching about astronomy, and yet doing it for something bigger than myself. But the Jesuits had another idea. When I took my vows, they were vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Poverty and chastity I was used to from being a graduate student, but obedience was a tough one. Under obedience, I was ordered to go to Rome, eat all that terrible Italian food, look at that boring scenery, and do whatever science I felt like doing with 1,000 meteorites in the collection. But, I was under obedience. I had to do it. Life was tough.
What could you do?
Exactly, those are the vows.
Your talk tonight was on why does the Vatican need an astronomer? Could you give our viewers a quick summary of that talk?
Well, it really comes to the question, why does anybody need an astronomer? We need astronomy because it's part of what makes us human. It's part of what draws us out of our day-to-day life and makes us aware of a bigger universe, bigger desires, bigger joys, a bigger sense of something outside of ourselves. And I think that's a draw to God.
Very interesting. What is your main area of interest in astronomy?
I'm really interested in the small bodies in the solar system. The big question in planetary astronomy has always been, how are the planets formed? And to me, to understand that, you have to be able to understand the little guys. So I've always been interested in asteroids, the moons of the outer planets, and now Kuiper Belt objects. And I study them either with our telescope, looking at their colors and trying to classify them and make sense of them, or looking at the meteorites that come from the asteroids and trying to figure out from their physical properties what happened to them, how they were formed, what that can tell us about the asteroids, where they came from.
You mentioned Kuiper Belt objects. For our viewers who may not be familiar with that, can you explain what those are?
Well, back when the solar system was formed, the planets were all formed in a nice set of orbits, all in the same plane. We used to have to say, except for Pluto, but now we don't have to say that anymore. And yet, why does the solar system end at Uranus and Neptune? Shouldn't there be stuff out beyond there? People had theorized about that for 50 years, and finally in the 1990s, the first of these objects were discovered. They're basically giant comets, the ones we've seen. And no doubt there were smaller bodies too small for us to see that look like the comets we do see. But it's just like a second asteroid belt, only this time made up of ice and rock. And every now and then one of them gets ejected into an orbit that becomes a comet.
A lot of people seem to think that science and religion are incompatible. Why do you think they believe that way?
That's the hardest question I've ever faced, because I never thought that. It was the nuns who taught me astronomy when I was at Queen of Martyrs School. I've never been able to understand why anybody would think that. It's like saying it's incompatible being an astronomer and a Tigers fan. I've never been able to catch it. And in fact, the mere existence of me with an MIT ring and a collar proves that that idea is wrong. Whether I'm right or wrong in being an astronomer or being a Jesuit, clearly the evidence shows that it's possible.
Well, I'd like to thank our special guest this evening, Brother Guy Consolmagno. Brother Guy, thank you very much for being on our show.
It's a delight.
Thank you for being here. We'll be right back after this. And now for a look at what's visible in our January skies. Here's Steve Whitty.
Thanks, Don. Let's look at what's up in the night sky for January 2010. Happy New Year! January starts off with an essentially full moon. It was full on December 31st, if you saw our last show. The third quarter is on the 7th of January. The new moon is on the 15th of January. The first quarter is visible in the evening sky on the 23rd of January. And the month rolls to a conclusion with a full moon on the 30th. Jupiter is now in the western sky, still in Capricorn, and still there with Neptune snuggled in close if you've got a telescope or are really good with binoculars. And we'll be losing Jupiter fairly soon to the glare of the sun, so this is sort of your last chance to see Jupiter before it comes around the other side of the sun. But what we lose in Jupiter, we gain in Mars. Mars becomes an evening object rising at 9 p.m. in Leo, and we have a great treat with Mars. We have opposition on the 29th of January. That's where Mars appears to stand still in the sky with respect to the other stars, and it is as big as it gets and as bright as it gets, because opposition is when the Earth, the Sun, and Mars are all in a straight line. So Mars is as close as it gets, so it's as large as it gets, and as bright as it gets. Saturn rises at midnight. It's in Virgo. There's kind of an interesting thing on the 6th of January, that's on a Saturday. At 1:30 a.m. in the morning, the Moon and Saturn are right next to each other. So that's an easy way to find Saturn, although Saturn is quite bright and you can see it pretty easily. On the 25th of January, Mercury is the easiest it absolutely can be seen in the sky. On the 25th of January, in the morning, Mercury has greatest elongation, that is, it's farthest from the sun. So wake up just a little bit before sunrise and see if you can't spot Mercury. We have an interesting meteor shower in January on the 3rd and 4th, that's the peak, called the Quadrantids meteor shower. Say that 3 times fast. We expect perhaps 40 bright, blue, and fast meteors per hour. But we have a little bit of interference with the moon. The moon is roughly in the 3rd quarter. It's a waning moon. At 10:30 on the 3rd, the moon rises. And maybe 11:30 on the 4th, the moon rises. So where normally meteors are best seen after midnight, the meteors in this opposition, this meteor shower, are probably better seen in the evening before the moon comes up. So that's pretty much it for what you can see in the night sky in January of 2010. Keep looking up.